My name is Eva and today we'll tackle modal verbs. This lesson is introductory and precedes a series of detailed lessons about each of the modal verbs in English. Today we'll answer the questions: what is a modal verb? How many modal verbs are there in English and what are they? What distinguishes modal verbs from other types of verbs? And what are the basic rules in using modal verbs? In the end of this video, we'll do a short exercise to refresh some knowledge of modal verbs that you might already have. This exercise will help you see what your weak spots are and what should be revised. We will not be discussing each of the modal verbs in this video, because this lesson will be followed by a series of lessons on each of the modal verbs, where we'll be talking about all the possible meanings each of those modal verbs has. Let's begin our introductory lesson. The 9 modal verbs of the English language. What is a modal verb? A modal auxiliary verb is a helping verb that is typically used with another verb to express a modality such as a likelihood, ability, permission, suggestion, order, obligation, necessity, or advice. What is a modality then? Modality is a way to express various relationships to reality. For example, a modal verb or a modal expression may say that something is likely, necessary, desirable, or permissible. In classical approaches to linguistic modality, an utterance expressing modality can always be paraphrased to fit the following template. According to a set of rules, wishes, beliefs, it is necessary, possible, advisable that the main proposition is the case. Let's look at some examples following this formula. My friend is at home now. It's a simple declarative sentence that states a fact. My friend is at home now. My friend might be at home now. This sentence expresses modality. It is likely that my friend is at home now. In other words, according to me or according to my beliefs, my friend is at home now. From this sentence, we don't know whether my friend is actually at home or not, whether it is real or not. What we understand is that I, the speaker, believe that it is possible that he or she is at home now. So, likelihood. Might expresses likelihood. Let's consider these 2 examples. Alexander studies English. This sentence states the fact that Alexander studies English. Alexander should study English. This sentence expresses the speaker's attitude to reality. Say, according to me, it is advisable that Alexander should study English. I, the speaker, believe it is advisable. So should here expresses suggestion or a piece of advice. Another set of examples is this. Helen plays the piano. The sentence states the fact that Helen plays the piano. Helen can play the piano. This sentence expresses Helen's ability to play the piano. She's able to do it. Okay, the 9 modal verbs in English are can, could, may, might, shall, should, will, would, and must. If you expected to see something on this list and it is not here, that means that the verb is not considered to be a true modal verb. It might be a semi-modal. We'll talk about them later in the next video. Or this can be a modal phrase or an idiom, but not a modal verb. So we have 9 of them. Okay, as you can see, the majority of them can kind of be divided into pairs, like can, could, may, might, shall, should, will, would. This happens because the majority of these modal verbs have a past form. For instance, we say, I can play the piano, but she could play the piano when she was 7. But be attentive, please, this doesn't mean that could is identical in all its meanings to can. Modal verbs tend to express different meanings in the present and in the past. I can say she can cook well, expressing her ability to cook. But she could have cooked that pie will express that it is possible that she cooked that pie. It will express likelihood in the past. Moreover, the so-called past form may not be restricted to the past only. So, for example, I can ask, could you please lend me your pen? And this will be just a polite question in the present, not a sentence in the past. So let's remember that each of these 9 verbs should be studied separately because each of them has its own unique meaning. This being said, let's move on to what makes a verb a modal. So, modal verbs are always followed by a verb in the first form. She can swim, not she can swims, and not she can swam, nothing like that. The first form of the verb is used. She can swim. Modal verbs can never be found one after another. She may can dance is impossible. I should can speak French makes no sense at all. Are always the first verb in the verb phrase. You cannot say she dance can, only she can dance. Modal verbs are always the first ones, right? Modal verbs do not take auxiliaries because they are auxiliaries. They are called this way, yeah? The modal auxiliary verbs. I don't can dance. This sentence makes no sense. We should say I can't dance or I cannot dance. Modal verbs do not inflect for person. You cannot add ending s to a modal verb. You cannot say she can't play the piano. It will be wrong. She can, I can, we can play the piano. No matter what the person is, can will always remain the same. Modal verbs have no non-finite forms. You cannot say canning or shooting or to can or to shoot. Nothing like that is possible. And modal verbs are always auxiliary verbs, never lexical verbs. What does that mean? That when you say I can, nobody understands what exactly is the thing that you can. You can what? So it's not enough just to use a modal verb. You also need a lexical verb that will identify an action. Okay? I can dance. Like the auxiliary verbs do, be, and have, modal auxiliary verbs exhibit nice properties. What do we mean, nice? Nice is an acronym for negation, inversion, code, and emphasis. So nice, negation, and they contract with not to form negatives. I can't or I cannot dance. She shouldn't use that word. She won't do it. Inversion. They invert with subjects, just like do and like have, right? May I ask you something? Shall I begin? Must we do it now? Code. Those of you who studied music can easily draw a parallel with a coda here. A coda that marks an end of a piece of music. Code. They can occur at the end of a sentence when a main verb is missing. I don't know if he will do it, yeah? I'm not sure if I can come. I don't know if he will. Emphasis. They may be stressed to give positive emphasis to an utterance. I must do it. You don't understand. Or I won't let it happen. Yeah? By positive here, we mean not a positive sentence, like or versus a negative sentence, yeah? But that we are completely sure in what we want to do. Like I must do it. I use this word and I use the emphasis to stress that I consider it to be necessary, or I won't let it happen. There is no way I can possibly accept that thing, yeah? Okay, let's move on to our next idea. As we have just seen, modal verbs have some limitations compared to lexical verbs. They lack the flexibility that lexical verbs have, and this makes it impossible to use them in many English sentences. For example, we cannot use modal verbs in perfect tenses, and some of them cannot be used in the future or in the past. That's why we have plenty of idiomatic constructions and 4 semi-modal verbs in the language to bypass the limitations of the true modal verbs. Let's see what I mean. Can is only used in the present and in the past. But what should we do when we need to say something in the future? We will use a substitute. We will use to be able to when we want to express an ability to do something in the future. For example, I can't do it today, but I'll be able to do it tomorrow. Another example is must, which cannot be used in the past and in the future. Must is replaced with a periphrastic modal, to have to. We will talk about periphrastic modals in one of the following videos for sure. So we must finish this work today. We had to do a lot of work yesterday. We will have to work hard tomorrow. And another example is may. Be allowed to may be used instead of it. You may stay with us. When they come, they will be allowed to stay in our son's room. So in the second sentence, we are talking about something which is yet to come, about a future situation. And obviously, we will not be able to use may in such a sentence. So we'll have to address something else, yeah, and we will use a substitute, to be able to, which is a periphrastic modal. Again, we'll talk about them later. Okay. Now let's try to do an exercise, as this is an introductory lesson to the modal verbs. It's a good chance to check how well you know or how well you remember each of these modal verbs. So we have can, could, may, might, shall, should, will, would, and must. I suggest that you should take a notebook and a pen or a pencil and write down the sentences and your answers and then check them with me. So let us start with the first one. I see your brother tomorrow. He'll probably be at the office in the afternoon. So what is the ideal modal verb that we can use here? Right, I might see your brother tomorrow. Oh, by the way, negative forms of these modals are also used in the exercise. So pay attention that sometimes you might need to use a negative form. Okay, the second sentence. Local governments keep the roads clean. Local governments must keep the roads clean. This is their obligation. They must do it. Number 3. Your dreams come true. What is the correct option here? It is may, because it's a wish. It's an optative sentence. May all your dreams come true. May you live long. May God bless you. Whatever. Number 4. Our neighbor have been at home. I heard someone singing in the bathroom. Okay. Our neighbor must have been at home. I heard someone singing in the bathroom. So if we compare this sentence to number 1, we'll see that both of them express probability or possibility. But in the first case, we have doubts. We say, I might see your brother. He will probably be at the office. We are not sure at all. In the sentence number 4, we are pretty sure that this is our neighbor because we know his ways. We know that he likes to sing in his bathroom, right? So we can say it must be our neighbor, yeah, because we heard him singing. Okay, number 5. The deadline is tomorrow. You have written that essay long ago. What should we say here? The deadline is tomorrow. You should have written that essay long ago. You should have written that essay long ago. This is a reproach. When we use should plus have done something, we want to say that the action was desirable, but it was not done. You should have written that essay long ago. Okay, number 6. You, be serious. It's the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard. Okay. You can't be serious. It's the most ridiculous thing I have ever heard. Can't expresses disbelief. You can't be serious. Okay, number 7. There is no milk left. I go and buy some. I shall go and buy some. I promise, my suggestion, I shall go and do something. Number 8. She type pretty fast in several languages. Well, obviously here we're talking about somebody's ability to do something. She can type pretty fast in several languages. She has a skill. Number 9. You do me a favor, please. Could you do me a favor, please? Okay, here we can use can, but this please in the end of the question makes it kind of polite, right? We want to be polite, and that's why could is better, because can you do me a favor? This is a question that you can address your friend with. Yeah, can you do me a favor, please? Can you do me a favor? Could you do me a favor is a politer version of it. Okay, number 10. If I were you, I invest into a new computer. If I were you, I would invest into a new computer. This is a conditional sentence of a second type. Yeah, it's an unreal situation in present. I'm not you, but if I were you, I would invest into it. Number 11, it's minus 21. The car start. The car won't start. The car doesn't want to start, yeah? So we use will to express somebody's desire or readiness to perform an action or a capability. Here the car is dead. It's not capable of starting, yeah, because it's very cold outside. And number 12, in many countries you smoke in public places. In many countries you mustn't smoke in public places. Correct, it's a prohibition. It is prohibited to smoke in public places in many countries. Okay, I hope this exercise was useful and you have probably discovered something new. If you understand that you still have a lot of doubts as to how to use these modal verbs, we will discuss each of them in detail in the upcoming videos. Okay, for now, this is all I have to say about modal verbs. We'll talk about each of these 9 modal verbs in the upcoming lessons. We'll also be speaking about semi-modals and about periphrastic modals or modal phrases. Please make sure you are subscribed to this channel. If you have any questions, leave them down below, and see you later!